The city of Neo-Seoul glowed under the dome that protected it from the harsh atmosphere of Mars. It was the year 2445, and the Song family home stood quietly among the rows of modern houses in Section 7 of the colony. Tonight was special. It was the evening before the winter celebration, and the air felt different somehow. Do-young Song sat in his study, looking at the family photos floating in the holographic display. His wife, Mi-rae, was in the kitchen preparing a traditional meal for tomorrow's celebration. Their 7 children were the pride of their lives, each one special in their own way. The 5 older children were upstairs. Hyeon, the oldest at 17, was helping her younger siblings get ready for bed. She always took care of Taeho, 14, Jae-yun, 12, Kyung-min, 10, and Hejun, 8. The 2 youngest Song children, Yi-jun, 6, and Sunhae, 4, were already asleep in their rooms on the first floor. "The weather system is acting strange tonight," Mi-rae called from the kitchen. She was right. The usual red dust storms of Mars seemed calmer than normal, but there was something else, a feeling that made the back of Do-young's neck tingle. He walked to the window and looked up at the dome above their section of the colony. The protective shield that usually showed the rust-colored Martian sky was flickering slightly. Small waves of light, like the old videos of Earth's northern lights, danced across its surface. "Home system," Do-young called out to their AI assistant, "Run a diagnostic on the house shields." The AI's smooth voice responded, "Running diagnostic. Warning. Unusual electromagnetic activity detected in the area. Shield strength at 98%. No immediate danger detected." Do-young frowned. He had worked with quantum computers for 20 years, and something about these readings didn't make sense. The numbers kept changing in tiny ways, as if something was interfering with the measurements. Upstairs, Hyeon was reading a story to her younger siblings. They had pushed their sleeping pods together, something they often did during celebrations. The soft blue light from their room's night mode cast gentle shadows on the walls. "Just one more story, please," the June begged, his eyes already heavy with sleep. "Tomorrow is a big day," Hyeon said softly. "We need to rest." She looked out their window and noticed something odd. The neighbors' lights were all working normally, but their own house lights seemed to be dimming and brightening in a strange pattern. In the kitchen, Mi-rae was cleaning up when she saw it. A flash of silver light through the window, like nothing she'd seen before on Mars. It wasn't the usual glint of transport ships or maintenance drones. This light seemed to bend in impossible ways. "Do-young," she called out, "come look at this." But before he could reach the kitchen, their home system's voice changed. It became deeper, with an odd echo. "Warning. Unknown energy signature detected. Shield fluctuations increasing. Recommended action. Check on children." The lights flickered more intensely now. Do-young rushed to the stairs, feeling a strange resistance in the air, as if it had become thicker. The home's temperature sensors were showing impossible readings. Some areas of the house were registering near freezing, while others showed normal temperatures. Mi-rae followed him, her heart beating faster. The air felt heavy with something more than just worry. It was like the moment before a storm, but they were under the colony's dome. There shouldn't be any storms. As they reached the bottom of the stairs, all the lights in the house went out at once. In the sudden darkness, they heard a sound from upstairs. Not quite a voice, not quite a machine. It was something in between, something that shouldn't exist in their carefully controlled colony world. The home system spoke one last time, its voice now barely recognizable. "Warning. Temporal anomaly det." Then it went silent, leaving the Song family home in complete darkness, except for the strange, silver light that now seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. The darkness in the Song family home was different from normal darkness. It seemed to move and shift, like black water flowing through the air. Do-young held Mi-rae's hand as they stood at the bottom of the stairs. The silver light they had seen earlier now appeared in thin lines along the walls, creating patterns they had never seen before. "Home system, emergency restart," Do-young called out. His voice sounded strange, as if the air itself was thicker than usual. There was no response from the AI. Mei looked at the emergency panel on the wall. All houses in Neo-Seoul had backup power systems, but the panel showed only static. "Something is blocking all our systems," she said. "But how? The colony's main power grid is supposed to be unbreakable." They heard soft footsteps upstairs. "Hayan," Mei called out. "Children, are you all right?" There was no answer, but the silver lines on the walls grew brighter. Do-young walked to the window and looked outside. What he saw made him step back in surprise. Their house was the only dark one in the entire street. All their neighbors' homes glowed with normal light, as if nothing was wrong. "We need to check on the children," Mei said. She started up the stairs, but stopped suddenly. "Do-young, look at this." She pointed at her personal tablet. Unlike every other electronic device in the house, it was still working. But the screen showed impossible things. The tablet's clock was spinning backward and forward, showing different times and dates. Messages appeared and disappeared in strange languages. Then, clear words formed on the screen. "The children are being evaluated. Do not interfere." Do-young took out his own tablet. It showed different numbers and readings, all changing quickly. As a quantum computing specialist, he recognized some patterns. "These are temporal readings," he said. "But that's impossible. We don't have that technology yet." Suddenly, they heard the voice of their oldest daughter, Hayan, but it sounded wrong, like it was coming from far away and very close at the same time. "Mom, Dad, something strange is happening to us." Mei ran up the stairs, with Do-young close behind. But each step seemed to take longer than it should, as if time itself was stretching like rubber. The silver lines on the walls grew brighter, forming doorways that weren't there before. They heard more voices: Taeho, Jae-yun, Kyungmin, and Hajun, all talking at once, but their words made no sense. Some words seemed to come from the future, others from the past. The voices mixed together like streams flowing into a river. When they finally reached the top of the stairs, the air felt electric. The door to the children's room was there, but it looked different. The metal seemed to bend and twist, showing reflections of other places, other times. "Warning," a new voice said, different from their home system. "Temporal extraction in progress. Subject genetic markers confirmed. Archival process beginning." Do-young tried to open the door, but his hand passed through the handle as if it wasn't real. Mei screamed as she saw silver light pouring out from under the door. Their tablets both showed the same message now. The Song children have been chosen. They will help save humanity. The silver light grew so bright, they had to cover their eyes. When they could see again, the door was normal. Do-young opened it easily now, but the room beyond was empty. The sleeping pods were still there, but the 5 children were gone. The only trace left was a faint blue glow in the air and a message floating in the center of the room, made of light. "They are safe. They are needed. They will return." Downstairs, their home system suddenly came back to life, its voice normal again. Power restored. Time: 23:47. No abnormalities detected. But Do-young and Mei knew something impossible had happened. Their 5 oldest children had vanished into what seemed like thin air, taken by something they couldn't understand. Do-young and Mei stood in the empty room where their 5 children had been just moments before. The air still felt strange, charged with an energy they had never felt before. Then they smelled smoke. The home system's voice came alive again, this time with urgency. "Fire detected in AI core. Emergency protocols activated." Red warning lights filled the hallway. Mei rushed to check on their 2 youngest children downstairs. Smoke was already filling the lower level of the house. Do-young ran to the AI core room, where their home's main computer system was kept. When he opened the door, he saw something that made no sense. The fire wasn't burning like normal fire. It moved in patterns, almost like it was alive. Yi-jun, Sun-hai, Mirai called out as she reached the children's rooms. The two young ones were awake now, frightened by the noise and lights. She quickly helped them out of bed. The smoke grew thicker, but it behaved strangely. It formed perfect circles and lines, moving against the airflow. Do-young tried to use the emergency fire system, but nothing worked. The flames spread in a precise pattern, as if they were following an invisible path. "Everyone out!" Do-young shouted. He ran to help Mirai with the younger children. As they moved toward the front door, he tried one last time to reach the upper floor where their other 5 children had vanished. But the stairway was now blocked by a wall of fire that moved like a curtain in the wind. Colony emergency sirens began to sound outside. Their neighbors were coming out of their houses, pointing at the strange fire that seemed to affect only the Song family home. The flames glowed with an unusual blue tint at their edges. The emergency response team arrived quickly. They wore their standard Mars fire protection suits, but their equipment started acting strangely as soon as they got close to the house. Their sensors showed impossible readings. "The fire isn't spreading like it should," one firefighter said. "It's contained to specific parts of the house, but we can't put it out. It's like it's not even real fire." Do-young held Mirai and their 2 youngest children as they watched the rescue team try to reach the upper floor. Each attempt failed. The fire blocked every path, moving to stop them no matter what approach they tried. The colony's chief of emergency services arrived at the scene. "Mr. and Mrs. Song," she said, "our sensors are showing unusual energy patterns. This isn't a normal fire. Where are your other children?" Mirai tried to explain what had happened about the silver light and the strange messages, but it all sounded impossible now. The chief looked confused but took careful notes. After 3 hours, the fire suddenly went out by itself. It didn't slowly die down like normal fires. It simply disappeared, as if someone had turned off a switch. The emergency teams entered the house, going room by room. The damage was strange. The AI core was completely destroyed, but in a way the fire experts had never seen before. The upper floor where the 5 children had been was untouched by fire, yet all their personal tablets and devices were melted in exactly the same way. As the sun rose over the Mars colony, casting a red glow through the dome, the Song family faced a terrible truth. Their 5 oldest children were gone. The fire had destroyed any evidence of what had really happened. All that remained were the strange messages on their tablets and the impossible readings from the colony sensors. Do-young held Yi-jun and Sun-hai close, while Mirai spoke with the investigators. "We'll find them," he whispered, though he knew this was no ordinary disappearance. Whatever had taken their children wasn't from their world, or perhaps even from their time. 3 days after the fire, the Song family home became the center of the most unusual investigation in Neo-Seoul's history. The colony's best investigators worked in the house, studying every detail with their advanced equipment. Nothing made sense to them. Lead investigator Park stood in the children's empty room, looking at his data tablet. The neural signature readings troubled him deeply. Every person in the Mars colony had a neural signature that the colony's systems could track. It was a safety measure, meant to help find people in emergencies. But the 5 Song children's signatures had vanished in a way that should not be possible. "Mr. Song," Investigator Park called to Do-young, who waited in the hallway. According to these records, all 5 children's neural signatures disappeared at exactly the same moment. Not one after another, but all at once. This has never happened before. Do-young looked at the data. As a quantum computing specialist, he understood what he was seeing. The children's neural signals had not faded away. They had simply vanished, as if they had never existed. But there was something else in the data, something that made his hands shake. "Look at this," he said to the investigator. "The timestamp of their disappearance. It happened exactly 3 seconds before the fire started. Not after. Before." Myra joined them, carrying more evidence. She had been reviewing security footage from the neighboring houses. The videos showed something remarkable. At the exact moment their children vanished, time seemed to stop. Birds in mid-flight froze. The dust in the Mars air stopped moving. Everything paused for exactly 1 second. The colony's governing AI had been watching too. It managed all the data from every camera, sensor, and system in Neosol. But when the investigators checked its records, they found something impossible. The AI had no record of the Song children leaving the house. According to its data, they had simply ceased to exist. "There's more," Myra said, showing them her tablet. She had found strange patterns in the colony's communication logs. In the moments before the fire, there had been a burst of data that no one could decode. The symbols looked like normal computer code, but they changed every time someone tried to read them. Investigator Park brought in the colony's best technology experts. They set up special equipment in the house, hoping to find traces of what had happened. Their machines detected unusual energy patterns that seemed to echo through time. It was as if the house existed in 2 moments at once. The youngest Song children, Yi-jun and Sun-hai, told their own strange story. They said they had dreamed of their siblings that night. In their dreams, their brothers and sisters were in a place with silver walls and windows that showed different times. But when they tried to describe more, the words seemed to fade from their minds. As evening approached, the investigators made another discovery. The security cameras had caught something else. In the moments before the fire, every electronic clock in the neighborhood had started running backward. Not just showing wrong times, but actually counting down to the moment when the Song children vanished. Do-young and Myra sat in their temporary home, looking at photos of their missing children. The investigation had given them answers that only led to more questions. Their children had not been taken by anything they understood. They had been taken by something that could control time itself. In the ruined AI core of their house, one small screen still worked. It kept showing the same message over and over. "The children are safe in the archives. Time is not what you think it is. They will return when they are ready." 1 week after the disappearance, Do-young sat alone in his study at their temporary home. The colony had given them a new place to stay while investigators continued to examine their house. He stared at his children's education tablets spread across his desk. The devices had survived the strange fire, though they should have been destroyed. Do-young touched each tablet's screen, remembering how his children used them every day for their lessons. As his fingers moved across Han's tablet, something unusual happened. The screen lit up with a faint blue glow, different from its normal light. Numbers and letters appeared, but not in any normal pattern. He recognized it immediately. Someone had hidden encrypted messages in the children's homework files. As a quantum computing specialist, he knew how to find hidden data. His hands moved quickly over the tablet, revealing more secret messages. What he found made his heart beat faster. The messages showed that his children had been talking to someone, or something, calling itself the Archivists. The conversations went back months. At first, they seemed like normal messages about history and science, but then they changed. The Archivists had asked questions about the children's grandmother. Myra came into the study and found Do-young surrounded by glowing screens. "Look at this," he said, his voice shaking. "They knew about your mother's work." Myra's mother had been one of the first scientists to work on Mars terraforming. Her work was classified, marked as top secret by the colony government. She had died 5 years ago, taking her secrets with her, or so they had thought. The messages revealed something incredible. The children's grandmother had done more than help make Mars livable. She had changed the genetic code of the first Mars colonists, giving them special abilities that would help them survive. These changes had passed down to her grandchildren. The Archivists knew, Do-young said, reading more messages. "They chose our children because of their special genes. Each of them has different gifts from their grandmother's work." Myra read the messages with growing understanding. According to the Archivists, Han could see patterns in time. Tae-ho could feel the flow of data in computers. Ja-yeon could remember things that hadn't happened yet. Kyung-min could read the thoughts of machines. Ha-jum could see through walls of time. But why take them? Mi-rae asked, her voice breaking. Why not just talk to us? A new message appeared on Ha-yeon's tablet, as if answering her question. Your children are special. They carry the seeds of humanity's next step. We have watched them since birth, waiting for their gifts to grow strong enough. Do-yeon found more hidden files. The archivists had been teaching their children in secret, helping them understand their abilities. The lessons were hidden inside normal schoolwork, coded in ways that only the children could see. There are others, he said, reading further. Other families, other children, all carrying special genes. Some from Mars, some from Earth, some from the outer colonies. The archivists have been gathering them all. As night fell over the Mars colony, Do-young and Mi-rae looked out their window at the dome above. Somewhere out there, in time or space or both, their children were learning to use abilities that normal humans didn't have. They were part of something bigger than their family, bigger than Mars itself. A final message glowed on the tablet. Your children will help build bridges across time. They will help humanity reach its true potential. Trust in their strength. Trust in their destiny. Mi-rae stood in the office of Dr. Lee, a specialist who worked with troubled AI systems. The office was far from the main colony, in a quiet section where few people went. Dr. Lee had contacted them after reading reports about the strange fire and the children's disappearance. Your house fire was not a normal fire, Dr. Lee said, showing them data on her screens. It was a temporal extraction event. Someone opened a door through time and took your children. She spoke quietly, as if worried that others might hear. Do-young looked at the data carefully. The patterns matched what he had seen in his quantum computing work. But time travel is impossible, he said. We don't have that technology. Dr. Lee smiled sadly. We don't, but they do. She pressed a button, and her office walls filled with images of other missing children. From Earth, from Mars, from every human colony. All had disappeared in similar ways over hundreds of years. The future needs special people, Dr. Lee explained. They send back collectors, the ones you know as the archivists. They look for children with certain genetic patterns, children who can help them save humanity. Mi-rae remembered the strange messages they had found. The solder children, she said suddenly. The ones who disappeared on Earth in 1945. Were they taken too? Dr. Lee nodded. Yes, your children are not the first, and they won't be the last. The archivists take only those who have the right genetic code. Your mother's work on Mars made your children perfect candidates. She showed them more data. The patterns of disappearances formed a complex web through time. Each taken child had special abilities that humanity would need in the future. The archivists were building a team, spread across time itself. But why didn't they just ask us? Do-young demanded. Why take them in secret? Because the future is dangerous, Dr. Lee said. Knowledge of time travel could destroy everything. The archivists must work in secret to protect their mission. They take children because young minds can adapt to temporal displacement. Adults cannot survive the journey. Mi-rae studied the images on the walls. Some showed other fires, other strange events. All had the same silver light they had seen. All had the same impossible readings. All had led to children vanishing into time. I can help you understand what happened, Dr. Lee said. I can show you the patterns, help you see where your children might have gone. But I can't bring them back. Only they can choose to return. She touched her screen, and a new image appeared. It showed a timeline of human history, marked with bright points where children had been taken. The points formed a pattern, like a constellation of stars stretching from Earth's past to Mars' present. Your children are part of something greater than we can understand, Dr. Lee explained. The future needs them to prevent a disaster, a moment in time when humanity might end. The archivists gather special children from across history to help stop this disaster. As Do-young, and Myray left Dr. Lee's office, they carried new understanding and new pain. Their children had not been stolen. They had been chosen. Somewhere in time, they were learning to use their gifts to save humanity. But this knowledge made their absence no easier to bear. 2 weeks after meeting Dr. Lee, Du Young made an important discovery. He was working late in his quantum computing lab when his machines detected something unusual. The neural signatures of his 5 children had appeared again, but they were different now. The signals came from many different times, all at once. He called Myray immediately. When she arrived at the lab, they watched the signals appear and disappear on his screens. Each child's signal showed up at different points in time. Hayen's signal came from 30 years in the future. Taiho's appeared 200 years ahead. Jai-Yun's signal moved between different times. Kyung-min and Hejun's signatures jumped around together, never staying in one time for long. "They're alive," Myray whispered, touching the screen where Hayen's signal glowed. "They're really out there." A message appeared on Du Young's computer. "Welcome to the network." The screen filled with names and dates, showing hundreds of families throughout history whose children had been taken. Some names they recognized from Earth's history. Others were from Mars colonies or space stations not yet built. Another message followed. "You are not alone. We are the parents of time." A new window opened, showing a hidden communication system. Through it, they could talk to other families whose children had been chosen by the archivists. They learned that many parents had received similar messages over the years. Some had lost children during strange fires, others during storms or unexplained events. All the children had special genetic markers. All had been taken to help save humanity's future. "Your children are safe," wrote a parent from Earth's lunar colony. "Mine were taken 5 years ago. They send us messages sometimes, telling us about their training. The archivists are teaching them to use their abilities," added another parent, this one from Europa. "My daughter can now see through time itself. She helps guide other children as they arrive." Do Young and Myray spent hours reading messages from other families. They learned about a vast network of parents spanning centuries, all connected by their lost children. Some had been waiting for decades, receiving occasional messages from their time-displaced children. Then something remarkable happened. Their son Taiho's neural signature grew stronger. Words appeared on the screen, written in his familiar way. "Mom, Dad, we are okay. The archivists are teaching us amazing things. Hayen can now walk through time like walking through a door. Jai-Yun remembers 1,000 possible futures. Kyung-min talks to machines from every age. Hejun and I are learning to build bridges between times." Myray cried as she read his words. Du Young held her hand tightly as more messages came through. Each child sent a brief note, telling them about their new lives. They were scattered across time, but they were together in their mission. The network of parents had a special name for their group, the Temporal Guard. They watched over the places where time grew thin, helping other families whose children were chosen. They shared stories, offered support, and kept the secret of humanity's time-traveling children. As the Mars night grew deep, Du Young and Myray realized they had found a new family, one that understood their loss and their hope. Their children were part of something greater than themselves, working to save humanity across the streams of time itself. 1 month after discovering the network, Du Young and Myray sat in their new home, surrounded by quantum communication devices. Through these machines, they could now talk to their children across time itself. Each conversation was brief, but precious. Today was special. All 5 children would connect at once, something that rarely happened because they lived in different times. Du Young checked the quantum readings one last time while Myray prepared the special communication room they had built. The screens lit up one by one. First came Hayen, her image slightly blurred by temporal distance. She looked older now, almost an adult. Then Taiho appeared, followed by Jai-Yun, Kyung-min, and Hejun. Each child's image showed them in different places, different times, but they were all smiling. "We have important news," Hayen said. Her voice sounded strong and sure. We've seen what we're fighting against. The future needs us because something is trying to erase humanity from time itself. Taiho's image moved forward. The archivists brought us to different times so we could learn different skills. Each time period teaches us something new, something that will help save everyone. Jai-yun spoke next, her young face serious. I've seen the moment when it happens, a point in time when humanity makes a choice that could end everything. We're learning how to change that moment. The machines of every age are helping us, Kyung-min added. They remember things that haven't happened yet. They're teaching us how to see the patterns of time. Ho-jun, the youngest, smiled at his parents. We miss you every day, but we're doing something important, something only we can do. Mai-rae wiped tears from her eyes as she listened to her children. They seemed so different now, so much older in their thoughts and words. The archivists had taught them well. When will you come home? She asked, though she already knew the answer. We can't come back yet, Hayan said gently, but we will return. We promise. When our work is done, when we've helped save humanity, we'll find our way back to you. Do-young had a difficult question to ask. The colony leaders are still investigating your disappearance. They want answers. Should we tell them the truth? The children looked at each other across time. Then Hayan spoke again. You can't tell them everything. The knowledge of time travel is dangerous. It could change the very future we're trying to save. But you can tell them we're safe, that we're helping humanity. The network will help you, Taiho added. Other parents have found ways to explain without revealing the whole truth. Trust them. As their time grew short, each child said goodbye. Their images began to fade, but their last words remained clear. Keep watching the quantum signals, Hayan said. We'll send messages when we can. And remember, every step we take through time brings us closer to coming home. The screens went dark, leaving Do-young and Mai-rae alone with their decision. They had to choose between telling the colony the full truth or protecting their children's mission. As they looked at each other, they knew what they had to do. They would join the other parents in the network, keeping the secret of humanity's time-traveling children. They would watch for quantum signals and temporal anomalies, helping other families whose children were chosen. And they would wait, knowing that somewhere in time, their children were working to save everyone's future.